Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here with a breaking news update in the Justin Baldoni response to Blake Lively's amended complaint. That's right. Brian Friedman, power attorney, is representing Justin Baldoni, and they've issued a statement following Blake's updated complaint. They say, "That's all you got?" They basically called her amended complaint underwhelming, which is a term I've been called in past relationships. But here we are, folks. So let's get into it. He says, "Where's the evidence? Show me the evidence." And pretty much the same thing everyone else is saying, which is, yeah, but what do you got? You know, this is like playing poker with someone and they go, "I've got a full house." And you're like, "Are you going to show me your cards?" "Well, I can't show you my cards. I don't want you guys to bully me, so I have to redact my cards." No, that's not how it works. You put your cards on the table, and they so far have not done that. So let's share what Brian Friedman had to say, and then I'm going to share several other tweets of interesting fan theories about what's going on. So stick around for those, and then at the end we'll get to our resident attorney. I feel like she should invoice me for the hours we've shared her content. Not actually Golden says some of the sort of technical side of things you and I may have missed. So here's the article that, and of course we know TMZ in close proximity to Brian Friedman. They must have him on speed dial. You remember the days you had an old school phone and you just had like several speed dial buttons? You had to be very selective about who you were going to speed dial. I had like Domino's Pizza, Blockbuster, and my buddy Joel. Blake Lively's new allegations against Justin Baldoni are missing one critical thing: cold hard proof. He did her wrong. At least that's how Justin's attorney is reading the documents. Brian Friedman, power attorney, tells TMZ, aka the 30-mile zone, he found Blake's amended lawsuit filed late Tuesday night underwhelming when it comes to any new facts or anything damning against his client. Yeah, Blake filed that lawsuit like she was in Cinderella, right? She had one heel off, she's running, that pumpkins are, cars are turning into pumpkins or whatever. It's the Cinderella nobody asked for. Anyhow, so Brian says the suit is filled with unsubstantial hearsay of unnamed persons who are clearly no longer willing to come forward or publicly support her claims. He adds that his clients, Baldoni, his publicist, and Wayfair Studios, have been transparent in providing receipts, real-time documents, and video showing a completely different story than what has been manipulated and cherry-picked to the media. I do have to say, it was an interesting strategy for Justin Baldoni to share the slow dance video, because Blake then tried to use that against him to say, "See, look, it was awkward." And then, of course, they say, "Well, it might have been awkward, but it wasn't sexual harassment. I'm directing you in a slow dance, segment where we have to escalate the tension between us, which means I go in, you go out, we do this, we do that." And anyhow, is that harassment? At most, you go, "Wow, this director's kind of weird," but harassment? Friedman also referenced Blake and Ryan Reynolds going to the Saturday Night Live 50 event last weekend, saying, "Our clients have taken this matter and these issues very seriously, notwithstanding the jokes made publicly by the plaintiff and her husband." Could you imagine if the $400 million lawsuit hinged on Ryan Reynolds telling a joke? That would be a very expensive joke. And I'm all for joking, but when you're in a lawsuit claiming your wife was harassed, maybe don't make jokes. Maybe just lay off on the jokes. Blake's new documents say there were two other women on the set of It Ends With Us who were uncomfortable with Justin's behavior, reported that to an executive at Sony, which distributed the film. Blake says those two women, unnamed, are willing to share documents and testify in court. Well, why won't they even share the screen grabs with the redactions? Friedman doesn't seem the least bit worried, telling us, "Since documents do not lie, and people do, the upcoming depositions of those who initially supported Miss Lively's false claims and those who are witnesses to her own behavior will be enlightening. What is truly uncomfortable here is Miss Lively's lack of actual evidence." I tell you what, speaking of poker, Brian Friedman plays a hell of a hand. I don't know if he really believes they've got all of the evidence on their side or if they're just playing chicken. It's almost like if you're playing chicken and then you go blindfolded. You go, "I am not going to veer off course. I'm going to blindfold myself. We are going straight into this thing." That's where Brian Friedman stands. As you know, in my last video, I shared the law firm from Blake Lively is also playing chicken. They're saying, "We're ready to go. We're taking all this to court. We're bringing people here." And Brian Friedman says, "Go for it. I would love to cross-examine Jenny Slate, Liz Plank, whoever else you say is one of your witnesses. I would love to. And if you're Jenny Slate, Liz Plank, do you really want to go through that? Now, if you're on the right side of the story, I've been deposed before. There is nothing, it is not hard to get deposed if you're telling the truth. But what we might see in a deposition, say they do bring Jenny Slate up to depose her. How that would work is, you swear to tell the truth, and you can't perjure yourself. You have to tell the truth. And they're gonna hire the videographer. You got to pay extra for it. They're gonna do that whole thing, right? And it's gonna look pretty. They're gonna put the blue backdrop. It's gonna be, you know what I mean? You do your makeup a little bit. You have your nice little water, and they grill the hell out of you. And they ask Jenny, well, if you felt uncomfortable, why didn't you contact HR? How come there's no paper trail? How come and there's going to be credibility issues. And to be quite honest, if you're not telling the truth or if you're hiding the truth, it ain't going to look good for your career. And if you're Blake Lively, same thing when you're cross-examined. We had that Amber Heard moment. Remember, she was cross-examined and she kind of did this, and she caught herself saying something she wasn't supposed to say. And that is something that you would not have caught in an email. That was a live human moment where she lost all credibility. So that's what's going to be interesting. As Friedman says, great, we'll do the depositions. Let's do it. Let's get it on paper. You guys got Tuesday open? Let's go. And they're going, well, hold on a second. So it's my belief that unless Blake has a smoking gun, that they're just, and also considering the chances of this settling are high, considering they are high, even though people don't tend to believe it, everyone's like, there's no way this is going to go to court. Excuse me. In that case, you would want as much of your evidence to make its way to the public domain as possible. A lot of times, as I've noticed, when you're doing these back and forth tit for tats, complaints, responses, emails, they're going to go public. So you insert things that might not be admissible in court, but it's there to help your case in the public domain. We don't see that from Blake. Is she really willing to protect Jenny Slate, Liz Plank, and whoever else by redacting their information? Is she really willing to do that now? Why would she fall on the sword for them? And in the truth is she isn't. So either the texts don't exist or she doesn't really have the full support of the people involved. And we're not even getting into the Taylor Swift aspect of it. Taylor Swift will not be caught in a deposition. It ain't going to happen. She's shaking it off. You know what I mean? Although I would love to see her deposed because unlike some people, I love Taylor Swift. I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. And I think Taylor Swift would come off okay in a deposition. I do. I think she would be fine. But, there might be instances if you're deposed where you have to tell the truth. You might say, yeah, Blake told me this happened or Blake told me that happened. And it doesn't help Blake out because you're not like a first person. You're just kind of saying, well, I got this information from Blake. So like you're not necessarily throwing her under the bus, but you certainly wouldn't lie for her. So either way, that's your response from Brian Friedman, power attorney. Let's go to some of your thoughts. Umbrella Guy says Blake Lively's amended complaint was a giant nothing burger. She and Ryan Reynolds are in for a bad time against Justin Baldoni. And by the way, if some of the claims being made are true, then it looks bad for Justin. Except there's just no evidence of that so far. Now, in my next video, make sure you're subscribed. I'm going to talk about the billionaire and some of the wild claims made against both him and their faith, which is leaving people in their faith community very upset. Leanne Newton said, so I finished reading the amended complaint. I noticed one big addition to Baldoni's amended complaint that Lively does not appear to have addressed. The metadata and allegations that she may have been colluding with the New York Times as early as Hallows Eve. No pushback on it at all that I could see. I was personally invested in her response to that. All right, so no pushback to the smear campaign she initiated against him, which again, considering he's suing her for defamation, she's going to have to answer to that. Here's an interesting response that was from a sort of side issue. We had someone here on Twitter said, Dave effed up today. He says only a couple thousand people watching Blake and Ryan dig their graves won't actually bury them. Now, first of all, I said a couple 100,000. And I stand by what I said. So I said, I don't know. Can you explain? And they say, the other day you said there are only a couple 100,000 people who are invested in Blake's drama. And in the long run, they aren't enough to cancel her or Ryan. As a content creator, do you want audiences to stop to think, then what I'm fighting for, maybe move on? And my response was, as a content creator, I try to share my authentic opinion. I don't think about milking my audience. What I'm illustrating is that they will still have careers in one capacity or another as of now. Yeah, so they will, my opinion is they will still have careers. Ryan Reynolds is worth a lot of money, and I don't think Deadpool going from making $1.6 billion at the box office to $1.595 billion is going to dent things. They're still way above the profit margin, and as we've seen by Woody Allen movies or others, unless you have like a complete cancelable Harvey Weinstein type of character, they're going to still make films. You know, James Franco makes movies still. He's had some, I mean, maybe I don't want to get sued. I don't know what his claims are against him. But my point is like, you know, there, I mean, Kevin Spacey's on his comeback tour. Armie Hammer. So, and I'm not endorsing any of these people. I'm just saying Ryan Reynolds will not be starting, in an OnlyFans account, to the chagrin of many housewives out there. No, so they're going to be fine. And here's some advice for any content creators out there. Do not make content to try to please your audience. I might lose some of you by saying that. You follow my channel and like what I do because I try to be as authentic as possible. That doesn't mean audience capture. We see this play out a lot of times with people that feel like, all right, my audience is Team Baldoni, so I really got to go in on Blake. No, I owe it to you to try to be fair. And as of right now, Blake doesn't bring the evidence, but if she has very simple evidence, some screen grabs to somebody that show that she was feeling harassed and claims that she can back up, if there's anyone else who had similar experiences and they brought them forward or whatever, if that exists and we see it, we have a different story to talk about. I don't expect that to come out because it hasn't come out yet. Now, I've had people say to me, Dave, what are you talking about? All the evidence is out there. You have to take a side. Well, it hasn't gone to trial yet. So while it might look bad for her, you know, it's the fourth quarter. The game's not over. If I had to put money on it, I would put money on this thing settling or Justin winning. But I wouldn't put money on Justin necessarily winning all of what he's suing for, you know, because I think proving defamation is going to be really hard. If she feels like she was harassed, can you prove that she did it maliciously? I mean, there's a lot of different things going on here. So I don't really know how it would turn out, but I don't see a scenario where like Blake just flat out wins this. But I think for both of them, settling would be a good option because you and I might not want this to settle. Trust me. I told you if you get me 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to New York to cover this trial, and I promise you I'll be there. With that said, this doesn't necessarily benefit Justin Baldoni. Like right now he's winning. So a simple settlement where they drop their charges and save $100 million and he gets a couple film deals out of it, that might be enough for him to not want to put his family through the torture of the depositions and screen grabs. Put it this way. And again, I don't believe this to be the case, but if Justin has any skeletons in his text message closet, he wants to settle this. And again, I think he seems like a straight and narrow kind of guy, but if he had any damaging things in there from shady business to, the shacking up with a cleaning lady, you wouldn't want those Venmos getting exposed, right? And again, I don't think that's the case. I'm not saying this to inflame any rumors. I have heard nothing. I'm just saying there's plenty of reasons why they might settle, even if he feels he's innocent. Citizen Journalist posted, I just bookmarked this from a thread because there are so many receipts that prove this is a lie. I don't know how they lie when there is so much proof of Lively saying she did everything in this movie, never once mentioning Baldoni. So here's the tweet. Is Blake Lively saying that Justin took credit for the film? No wonder the film buy credit was taken away from Justin Baldoni. Blake clearly felt like this was her film. The story Mr. Baldoni and Wayfair parties have told since Miss Lively filed her opening complaint is completely at odds with their behavior when trying to produce and market the film. Before Miss Lively sued, Mr. Baldoni and the Wayfair parties were perfectly happy to exploit Miss Lively's star power, as well as her access to A-list filmmakers, editors, and more. And notwithstanding their complaints today that Miss Lively supposedly seized control of Mr. Baldoni's film, that did not stop Mr. Baldoni from proudly marketing the film as his work on release. Indeed, although Mr. Baldoni privately confessed that he did not even see the final cut of the film until the premiere, he repeatedly and publicly took credit for the film, while Miss Lively generally downplayed her contributions. All right, well, Miss Lively is a saint, I guess. I don't really know what the points they're trying to make there. Here's the thoughts from our lawyer, I said our lawyer, not actually Golden on TikTok, sharing some of the technical sides of what they're arguing for.
In terms of the claims themselves, and this is the part that no one but the lawyers read, the stuff at the end about what they're actually suing for, there's a couple of things I noticed. One is that, like I've said, for civil claims, you have to show that the illegal behavior caused the damage, right? There has to be causation. And I've always thought that was an issue for her on the retaliation, because you have to factor in sort of the public organic sentiment. She has modified that language to now say that their actions were a substantial factor in those damages rather than the sole cause of the damages themselves, which is available under some of the laws that she has made claims under. So she is sort of saying, I recognize that some of it might have been organic, but most of it was this. I still think that's an uphill battle, but I think that's a good move on her part. In terms of claims that she has added defamation and false light privacy, that California law that Baldoni has also sued under, for the public statements that Baldoni's people have been saying about her on the news, including Friedman.
Yeah, so you can say these things in court, but when you're saying them on the news, you got to be careful. Now, Brian Friedman, I mean, the guy's been around for a long time. I don't think he's getting sued too often. He must know how to toe that line. But either way, adding the defamation is just a whole nother layer to it. All right, I got a lot more content coming your way. I'll share more of what our friends are saying in the legal world and all of your opinions. We have a ton to get to. We're going to still be covering, like up next, the billionaire financier of Wayfair, how he's being slammed, and if there's any truth to the or what is their intention by slamming him and their religion. So I'll have all of that. It's coming up next. Double check, confirm you're subscribed to the channel. Sometimes YouTube will accidentally drop you off. And if you want to get the afternoon rush hour on audio, say you're driving home, you can scan that QR code. You'll get it before the YouTube comes out. I always have this up at least an hour early. So the tea is piping hot. Scan that QR code or search the rush hour with Dave Neal on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We'll be back with more right after this.